Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandhakaro Vai Rukarastva Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we started a topic of Atma Vichara, self-inquiry, and both the necessity and the importance of the final link of our journey towards self-reliance, independence, and then we also had a slight modification to it, which called it is kind of like a journey we saw, and then we also saw how to strengthen our samagri. Samagri means all the wherewithal, all the supporting things for us to complete this journey. So we saw that. So today I think we will complete that topic. So the topic would be the importance and necessity of Atma Vichara, of self-inquiry. So this topic will be finished today, and then perhaps from next week, perhaps we'll start another topic, which I haven't quite decided yet, but I still have 1 week to think about it, and so we will start a new topic from next week. So hopefully we will finish it today, I hope. So what we saw in the last class was interesting, that this journey of ours is obstructed in the final analysis. There's a lot of obstructions, not just one. There's a lot of obstructions. It's kind of like an obstacle course. And the obstructions have to be overcome. Fortunately, it is an external and internal obstruction. And so the nature of obstruction is a very important one, because if my nature is defective, then I would have a huge problem. Because you can never achieve a defectful nature if your own nature is defective. Just like, for example, suppose your eyes are defective, then there is nothing that you can do. But if you had some obstruction on the eyes, then the operation can be much more simple, much simpler, and through cataract and so on, you can remove the obstructions, and your eyes that are naturally very pure and confident and powerful regain its own form, ability to see. So similarly here also, our obstructions are really a good news, even though we have to remove it, as we will see today, but it is removable. And so it just shows our intrinsic swarupa, which is free of any problems. So this is the journey, as you know very well. I'm not giving you anything new. So one thing too to see as far as the continuity from the last class is concerned, the importance of overcoming Pramada. So we have a couple of words that we will focus on today. One is called Pramada, which we introduced last week, and the second one is called Dhairyam. Dhairyam means patience and courage and the ability to stay the course. As you know, the word dhiraha. So dhiraha usually is referring to a person who is strong and wants to continue the journey in a very forceful way. It's the dhiraha. And so, and dhira has two aspects to it. One is jnanam and the other one is karma. So both of them combine together. Jnanam is to finally see very clearly what is lacking because of some doubts. And the karma comes from the courage to do. So sadhana and sadhya both combined together are the meaning of the word dhira. So dhairyam. This is the second word that we will use today. So please make a note of it. One is what we introduced last week, which we will now complete. Today is called Pramada. The other one is Dhairyam. So let's revise and finalize, not finalize, but to give some further commentary on the word Pramada. And so this falls under, both of these words fall under, what is it that we need to do to equip ourselves to finish the journey effectively? Is what it means. I mean, if you're going to Manas Sarovar or some other holy place in the Himalayas, and especially in perhaps the springtime when it is not that warm yet, you need to equip yourself. There may be some special boots required, clothing required, food required, medicines. And so similarly here, the journey to moksha, to finding independence, to finding Parameshwara, really, it's a quest of God, essentially. We need to have we must be adequately equipped. This is what we need to see. All right, so if we just look at that, I was just thinking about this. It turns out that our habits, so first of all, the revision of the meaning of the word Pramada. So Pramada means casualness, postponement, and I would say probably the most accurate will be carelessness. The opposite of that will be earnestness. And Pramada means carelessness. Oh, it'll be happening. It's okay. We can postpone it to another day. It's not that important. So we are all equipped with that. So this is where we have the three gunas. Sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. So tamaguna pradhana becomes pramada. And our level of pramada, if you just look at, this is the point I want to make. Our use of pramada is perhaps appropriate to what we are doing in this world, more or less. People that have less pramada are reach higher levels of success, fame, money, all that. And more pramada means people are more careless. They don't really worry about it that much. Whatever is going on, it's okay. So more or less our pramada in the worldly existence that we are involved in on a day-to-day basis is appropriate for that. So for example, this happens to all of us. We have always more things that we need to do and not enough time. And so we can say, okay, we can do that next week. We were just discussing all the reformation of the Aim for Seva team. And then we said, well, let's meet tonight. No, so we didn't meet tonight. Okay, we'll do it next Monday. So this is part of that. It's kind of like a group pramada. And it's appropriate. Nothing much has been lost by losing 1 week. It would have been better if we had done it last week, but it's okay. No problems. So what I'm saying is that our level of behavior and attention is more or less appropriate for the world. But it is not appropriate if we are serious about the lofty goal of finding moksha. Finding moksha means, moksha looks like a kind of a strange word, but really finding a sense of independent happiness without any conditions in this life itself. Jivan Mukti, in other words. So if our goal is Jivan Mukti, then the level of pramada that we have, which is more or less adequate for transactions in our life, is not appropriate. It is not sufficient. We need to have a higher level of independence from pramada. I was just thinking about it just as a kind of like a visual way of looking at it. In India we have these villagers that employ a bullock cart to move grains and other products from one village to the other on rickety road. And the bullock carts are appropriate for those things because the bullocks are used to have been traveling in mud. So typically you will find if there is a lot of load to be done, 2 bullocks. Then on the back side of that is some kind of a wooden buggy, and the person sits on that and he just loads everything and he directs the bullocks to go on these roads and so on. Appropriate. It is adequate for the kind of back roads of the villages in India. And the more recent ones, of course, what they do is to replace the wooden wheels with tires, rubber tires that they can buy from old tires from the auto shops, and then they equip their rear wheels with tires. Beautiful. So they go around and it's appropriate. But then once in a while you will see, quite often you will see, that sometimes people have to go longer distances between towns, not just villages. And for that, what they do is to catch the highway. Sometimes 2-lane highway, sometimes 4-lane highway, and they put their bullock carts on the highway. This would be inappropriate. The bullock carts are not meant to be on the highway. You can ask why not? Because the speed and traffic on the highways is a different level of the speed and traffic on the back roads of the villages. For the back road of the villages, the bullock cart is very appropriate. For a highway, not so. And this is why there are so many accidents. And most of the time, as most of you might have really experienced this, that the person on the highway, especially in the evening, so he would have some kind of a lantern in the back to let people know that I am traveling, and the lantern runs out of oil and there is no light, and you're traveling so fast, all of a sudden you find there is an obstruction and there are trucks coming in on the other side. Accidents happen, deaths happen. I've seen some deaths in front of me when I was in India. So what I'm saying is that the equipment for transporting is okay in the back roads, but not on a main highway. very similar to that is that if you and I, either we are just kind of bluffing and saying, oh, let's just do a little bit of Vedanta, and I don't know, it looks, what else am I going to do? This looks kind of interesting. This is not really what it is meant to be. If we are not really serious about it, if we are, or on the other hand, if we are serious about it, then we need to have the kind of equipment in our mind and body which is appropriate to this. It's interesting, in Vedanta this is used, you may have heard of this, what is called Prasthanatraya. Prasthanatraya. The word Prasthana means, you can look it up if you want to. Prasthana means major highway. And you know what the Prasthanatraya is, right? Each student has to grasp, understand and grasp three things in Vedanta. If you haven't done that, then you still have not finished the Shravanam. The three things are principal Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. Three of them. It's called Prasthanatraya. So if we wanted to be on that highway and your equipment is the rickety old bullock cart, then it is not appropriate. So the first thing we need to do in order to really wake up from this existence, which is very much like a dream, which is not really my real life. All the transactions, all the vyavahara, all the waking world is exactly like a dream. And I need to really be independent of it. This is what the journey is. If we want to do that, we have to give up Pramada. And so I'm revising and I'm finishing up the revision. We saw that the first thing, as you know, we saw this example where the king, because he was given the kingdom, this is an important analogy. The king was given the kingdom from his father, never really had to work for it. And he said, I think I've got the right staff to manage and I can just have fun. It's okay. And I'll be careful. It's not as though I'm sleepy. But he is sleepy because behind the back, the people are cheating him. And he's losing control, and it's not really going to last. Swami Chinmayananda had given this very beautiful example. I remember this so well. He said, there was a kingdom where the rule was that at the age of 20, a new king would be selected. And out of all the people, strong men who would be vying for the king, and the idea was this: at the age of 20, a young man becomes a new king. And the whole kingdom is at his disposal. He rules the kingdom for 20 years. At the end of that, at the age of 40, he's transported by boat to a dangerous, to an island with dangerous animals, lions, serpents, and scorpions, and so on. And there is nobody there to really save you from all of this. The lions and the tigers will find you more or less, and they are used to eating meat. This was the rule. And there was many foolish people. They said, I enjoy for 20 years, so what if I have a bad death? And so they would be taken after 20 years and they will be fighting and so on and so forth. But this is the law. One of these days, a very wise person came up and said, I would like to be the king. So all of his classmates and friends and people said, you? These are all fun-loving people who just want to drink and have fun, and for 20 years they say, we don't want, it's okay, but you are a very sattvic person and you've been brought up well. How can you do that? He says, don't worry, I'll do it. So he became the king. And instead of just enjoying himself, he set out to some work. He started construction work on the island. He didn't really spend any time just partying and so on. He said there is no law which says that you cannot do it. Is there any law? They said no, there's no such law. You can do anything you want to. You're the king. He set out constructing a modern town on that island. And at the end of the 20 years when he was 40, thousands of people went with him, and he had a wonderful life after that. So Swami Chinmayananda had given the story. So very similar to what we are given is really that we are given a kingdom. As we have said, Adi Shankara also said that Ishvara has given you as the kingdom of your own life. And he's given you all the courtiers, all the things. And it's for you to really utilize them for going over to before death, going over to a land where you can escape death. Very beautiful story that Swami Chinmayananda had given. It just stuck in my mind from the very beginning. And really influenced me in making decisions. Those kinds of stories, I didn't just throw it out and say, oh, that's just a story. I said, this is my life. I have to change it around. I just went and had a lunch with some friends today. And so these two people were asking me, he said, tell us, what made you go into Vedanta? Because a lot of the friends, this is not normally done what I did, so they're curious. And so this elderly gentleman who is about 5 or 6 years older than me, he's a long-time friend of mine. Today he sat down at lunch and he says, I really want to ask you, how did you get started? So I said, when I met Swami Chinmayananda and later on Swami Dayananda, their arguments were very convincing to me, and that changed my life. So they said, how did they change your life? What did you do? So I had very simply, before I had met them, I was working for HP. I was I believe either first or second level manager, and I was doing well. And I was thinking I'm going to climb the corporate ladder and become a general manager or a vice president, make lots of money and so on. In those days, these new startups were not the thing to do. It was all in working for big companies. And then I said, I decided this isn't what I want to do. But I also did not escape my responsibility. So this is where the fine line between prarabdha karma and kamya karma comes in. Prarabdha karma means that I have a family, a wife, and a certain standard of living and so on. And this is what Ishvara has given me the opportunity. I must fulfill that. But that doesn't mean that I keep on climbing more and really leave aside the Vedantic teaching. So I was telling my friends, I said what changed my life was that I would do whatever is necessary, but then turn more and more attention to the study. Anyway, they had a lot of other questions and so on and so forth. So this is the thing that we have to do, really speaking. We have to become apramadi. We have to get rid of the pramada. So then the next thing that we see, by the way, one thing I would suggest to you, even recommend to you, that at some point in time, doesn't have to be, you go over your notes on this extended topic that we began 2 or 3 months ago. about the importance of Atma Vichara. So take notes and revise it. See what are the main things that you do. I think one of the mistakes we do is we just go from class to class and say, okay, that's done. What's next? Okay, so I'm following the next class, okay. But the process of internalization, of really sort of thinking, yes, this is more important to me, doesn't come in until we take the effort to revise it. So today, with this completion of this topic, I do suggest to you that at some point in time, take the entire set of classes and your notes, and you don't have to be very exhaustive. I'm sure you're taking good notes. Just go over your own notes. You will see that things will stick to your mind a lot more than not doing it. Anyway. So then the next thing we saw was that in order for us to become careful, less careless, less pramadi, becoming more apramadi, a key part of that is to understand what is obstructing me. Where am I not making enough progress? And you are not alone in this inquiry. The Shastra gives you all the help. You just have to listen carefully. The lead given by the Shastra, because the Shastra is very hitakari. It is really meant for your own good. There is no other agenda. Not getting more students or this, that, or the other, money, nothing that. It just says, hey, think about it. And it's universal. It's not Hinduism or anything like that. This is spirituality, which is good for the whole humanity. So, so the next thing that they say is that if you want to really become more careful, find out what is obstructing. And it says, may I please tell you what is the most important obstruction in the final analysis? There are lot of obstructions, but the most important obstruction that you have to go around is your ahankara and buddhi. So then we saw I won't go into spending more time in revising it. We have lots to do more today. When it suggested that both the I sense means taking yourself to be very seriously. This is me. Whatever I am. It's not that you're thinking you're the Atma. You're just thinking of the person that you are. This is enough for me. Don't obstruct me. I think I'm doing the well. I'll take care of it. This kind of a sense of I sense, aham buddhi, ahamkara, and mamakara. All this is me. All this is mine. This is mine. This is my family, my grandchildren. This is my car. All those, you don't want any obstructions to that. That's me. This becomes your biggest obstruction to doing something more than that. Again, I think at the risk of overstating, it is exactly like a room space which says, I'm happy. This is me. I could be bigger, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Just I'm a lot better than some of the other bathrooms, smelly places, and so on. I'm okay. This is a nice place. There's teaching going on here, so on and so forth. And so somebody says, listen, you're much more than that. He says, I know, but I don't know. This is fine. This is okay. No. If you give up your sense of limitation that you are the room space, it is an amazing thing. And so we kind of look at it, but then we said, no, I'm used to doing this. I've got nice walls, nicely, there's a TV, there's a table, and so on. I'm okay. I'm okay. This is our situation. I've got a family. I've done fairly well. I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay, you can be a lot happier. No, I know, but then I don't know how to do it. So this is okay for me. Okay, all right. This is the obstruction. You continue to be indulged in a dreamy state, not waking up. This is what the Shastra is saying, that in the final analysis, after all the other ones, and so the beautiful example given last week in the story about this king was that the main culprit who was keeping the king in the dark was his own prime minister. Because all the other cabinet ministers and all the MLAs and all the all the senators and congressmen that support the president, so to speak, are willing to listen to him, and he tells everybody, listen, let's enjoy, and we'll keep this guy in the dark, because if he finds out, we're gone. So they said, yes sir, we believe you. So whenever the person goes to all the senators and he says, Senator, I want to understand what's going on. This is what happens in these parties where a Republican Party, the head and all those people, if you go to a senator and say, I want to really reason with you why this is the wrong thing for us to do, and we need to pass a bipartisan bill. They'll say, first thing they go is to call their party head, whoever that is. It used to be, Trump, and I don't know whether he will still be there or not, and say, sir, I just want to find out. He says, don't listen to him. Don't talk to him. Just stay the course. There is a word in Sanskrit called agraha. Swami Maheshananji spends a lot of time talking about that. Agraha. This is an important word. Let me just say a couple of things on it and then we will resume. Agraha means you don't want to listen to reason. But this is what I want to do. Why? Because you belong to a party. You just follow the herd. Because there is some solace in herdism. So you don't know, you'll be all alone, and then that party will also not accept you, this party will not accept you. I will not become an Atma, an Atma will also reject me. Atma has not accepted me. I will become like Trishanku, which is neither here nor there, and I'm afraid of that. I just want to be, as part of this herd. This is our thinking. So just like this room space will say, no, I'm okay. I don't want to become total space. I don't know what the total space looks like. I have no idea. There's no boundaries. It's infinity. I can't visualize infinity. I'm okay with having a sort of like a finitude suits me. And the guru goes to another room and he says, hey, you want to become totally free? You want to become total space? And the other person also says the same thing. Hey, what did my neighbor, he says, I tried to reason with him and I thought I was coming somewhere, but finally he also agreed he is just going to be. He says, okay, me too. This is our situation. We do not want to give up our sense of finitude, of being finite. This is the biggest obstruction. So we went over that. All right, now 8:33. Okay. So this is kind of like a revision of the Pramada, inappropriateness of it, especially in light of this bigger journey that I am trying to make. Nature of Pramada, how it happens, how it hurts me, what are the obstructions, how to go around it. And so in the final thing, the king said, I want to understand. And this is exactly what happens to us as our age progresses. We begin to see, my gosh, I'm closer to death than to birth. And time is passing. And I need to do something. What do I need to do? So he says, okay, you need to confront your sense of limitation. Follow me, and we will go there. But for that, you have to give up pramada. You have to give up a sense of both shoka and moha. You have to say that you should, as we saw the final thing, that just because things confront you doesn't mean you have to accept it. It's your choice. And become independent. All of those kinds of things. All right. So now let us see this whole thing presented in one other way. Okay, same thing presented, but with another aspect of it. What it is we have something very valuable, and we don't know where to find it. So especially if we have been studying Vedanta for a while, the whole notion of praptasya praptihi, whole notion of saying, hey, you have an amazing source of happiness that you are not tapping into. Very much like somebody has left you with lots of money and you are too busy begging to investigate that. Something like that. But here in this story, this is an important way to look at it. So the setup here is, we're going to give you 2 or 3 different stories today to kind of ease the transition to understanding. The story is about a lady who is packing up her suitcases to go to an important family wedding. She's flying there, and she has some very valuable jewelry that she's hiding in the folds of her clothing. And so to avoid detection from the Indian customs or whatever you can say, she's got a lot of some extremely valuable diamond ring, for example, and she hides them within the clothing and so on and so forth. And then she reaches the destination, all right, and the time has come for her to go to the wedding. At the very last minute, she can't find the ring. She cannot find the ring. And so her husband and she both are looking at it, her children, whatever it is. And she knows that she put it in one of the places, but she doesn't understand where. In the meantime, her family is saying, come on, let's go, we are late. There is a bus leaving for the wedding, and if we miss that, So she is very distraught that I have it. It's not as though, but just give me another some time. They say you've already been doing it for 15 minutes. So here, the idea is this. You may have it. You may have something very valuable, But if you don't know where it is useless. This is the main thought. This is the main thought. So here, very similar to that, is that Shiva or Brahman, the very source of happiness, Parameshwara, Ishvara, is inside the samsara that we have. But we don't know where it is. So our Shastras also says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Oshnute Sarvan Kamaan Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. Taittiriya Upanishad. We've done that, those of you that took that class. Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayayam Parame Vyoman. Vyomni actually. So, Satchidananda Rupam Parabrahma Paramatma Parameshwara is hiding in the folds within your own mind, which is called Hardakasa, the Akasha of your Hridaya, the space within your heart, means the mind. It's there. But even though it is there, it gives you no joy until you discover, like the diamond ring. Just possessing it is not nearly as useful. It has no usefulness at all. In fact, gives you just the opposite. You criticize yourself. So I'm always like this. Why can't I find it? Why did I do that? I remember one time when we were sold our house in Los Gatos and we were moving. Before that, my wife was, she used to put some of her pieces of jewelry inside the jars of pulses, dal. And she got most of it out, but she was still missing some when we had to leave the house in a hurry. And we were very sorry what happened, but it just happened, gone. So something which is not discovered is as good as useless. So even though the Paramatma is in with me, unless I know where to look for it, it's not really giving me any happiness. This is a very important thing for us to see. So we can see there are a lot of examples like this. So for instance, there is fire in the wood. So supposing you're out of electricity, you're going into some kind of a mountain home, and there is plenty of wood inside the cottage of Lake Tahoe. But you don't have, so the fire is inside the wood, and it will give you a lot of warmth. But you should know how to light the wood up. If you don't know how to light the wood up, it's there inside the wood, but not expressed. It does not become useful. You can just be so cold during the night. Another example. There is electricity in the home, but unless I know where the switches are, where the main switch is, I cannot use it. Another example. You have a telephone, but unless you know the number of the person that you want to talk to, it's no use. Very similar to is the case that Atma is there, the source of joy and freedom is there, is as good as not there because I don't know where it is. So here there is a reasonable amount of doubt that can come in. Doubt is this. I can see that the ring which is in the folds of clothing is not found. I can see that the wood is not useful because I don't know how to light it up. I know that there is external electricity, and so on and so forth. Telephone outside. But isn't Paramatma my own Swarupa, as you say? Isn't the Parabrahma, Paramatma, Brahman, isn't my own nature? Yes, it is your own nature. Then how is it that I don't know it? You see, it's a very beautiful doubt. That if I don't know something externally, I'm bereft of its benefits. But that's not the case with you. What you're telling me is that my own nature is freedom. How is it that I don't know it? So for this, you know what the answer is. You should know by now, and if not, let's review this. And this, I think, is a very important insight that we must have. And I have to tell you that in my life, there are 3 or 4 things that were explained to me by various acharyas that were very clarifying for me. Very clarifying. I'm not completely done yet, but the level of clarity for myself, forget about teaching and all that, it doesn't matter to me. But for myself, it made a lot clearer and therefore joyful. In a certain way, it's kind of like, you see something but not clearly, because perhaps the glasses that you have are not the right type, or if you're looking for something, this is a good example. Supposing you want to look for something very subtle, then the instruments must be tuned to the same level of subtlety as what you are trying to find. If you're looking for a microbe, then just kind of like eyeing it is not going to help. If you want to look at the spots on the moon, you need to have something very steady, and you have to fine-tune both the left and the right side of the lenses so that the clarity of all the volcanoes on the moon become crystal clear. And I don't know about you, but the first time I ever saw that, a cousin of mine who was 2 or 3 years older than me, he told me in New Delhi one time, "Hey, you want to see the moon?" And I said, "Yeah, but there's nothing much to see." And he says, "No, let me tell you." So he sat me down with pillows outside. I still remember the whole setting. This must have been in when I was like 10 years old, early 50s. And he said, "Okay, you have to hold this very steady now. Okay, do you see the moon?" And of course, as you see the moon, it just flashes by. So steadiness is important. This is the same thing in our life also, that we have to see the Atma in a very steady way. And then you have to fine-tune the 2 parts of binoculars. And when you do that, I still remember, I said, "Oh my God, he says, "Yep, these are earthquake signs." I said, "Wow, I've never seen anything like this." So similarly to that, here also we have to really see this very clearly. So see this example well, and I would say that this is why I was very excited to go to the Keno Upanishad verse Pratibodha Viditam Matam. So this explains it, this part. And when I understood this, that gave me a lot of clarity. So here's what goes. So it says that, if you recall, that I can understand that things outside of me need to be discovered. The fire needs to be lit, the electrical connection needs to be made, telephone number has to be made, the ring has to be found. But if I am the nature of Brahman, as you say, I said, yes, you are the nature of Brahman. And how come I don't know this? So the answer to that, as you know, you should know, is that I am taking the wrong things to be myself. I am this is what Swami Maheshananji also pointed out. In fact, this chapter that he was taking this is almost like the last chapter that he took in Sri Rudram. So this is why also I'm finishing it up. Although we will do Sri Rudram in more detail at some point in time, probably in the Saturday morning class, and also take some snippets of that in our 1 week in ashram, which I still have not told you all the details about. So even though we will look at it more systematically, but I've taken bits and pieces out of it and made this as part of the self-inquiry process. So this was the last chapter. So here Swami Maheshananji pointed out that the reason why we don't know ourselves is because we are so focused on things that are not me, which obstructs my vision of myself. As Swami Tattvavedanandaji is very fond of saying as well, that really the nature of inquiry is anatma nivritti. Atma prapti is natural. You don't have to do anything for the atma prapti because you are the atma. What you have to do is nivritti of the anatma. What is not you needs to be rejected. Anyway, coming back to this one point about how come I don't see myself is the following. So please listen to this. I thought we have talked about it before. It may not be new to you, but because it was so important to me, I thought I would do it again. So I think I may have gone over this in the last few classes. I know that in one of the classes I went through just recently, so I'm not sure. When we see things, it is very natural for us to conclude that we are endowed with eyes. Because I see everything. I see the table, I see the lights, I see the walls. If you were in front of me, I will see you. I see. And I see things because I have eyes, isn't it? And you can even tell someone, do you know what your eyes look like? This is very possible. Very possible. Now in this day and age, it is very unlikely, but it's very possible. It's the possibility that we should be talking. Do you know, have you seen your eyes? And he says, no, I have not seen my eyes. How can I see my eyes? Because the eyes are the ones that are seeing things. The only way you can see your eye is through a reflection. But whether you see your eyes or not, you know that you have the eyes because you see things. Very obvious. Now let us look at I am aware of things. I am aware. In fact, I see things because I'm aware. I'm aware of the same things that my eyes are seeing. I'm aware of it. And in fact, even when my eyes are closed and I don't see anything, I'm aware of that. So it's much more than seeing. I'm aware of the darkness. I'm aware of the fact that my eyes are open but it is dark. I'm aware of the fact that even though there is light, but my eyes are closed, therefore they are dark. I know I'm aware of light, I'm aware of darkness, I'm aware. I'm aware of the time, I'm aware of where I am, I'm aware of what I know, I'm aware, I'm aware, I'm aware, I'm aware. This is true for all of us, not only for you and I, but to the smallest animals, the biggest animals. The elephant sees, it's aware. The little ant, a spider, they can hardly see, is aware, awareness. A child, it's awareness. I am not well, I need some milk. Awareness. Just like the eyes, you cannot see anything without the eyes. Can you be aware without being awareness? And it is not something outside of me. Not a quality. It is my nature. This is why, if you look at the plurality in the world, the animals, the people, the insects, everything, they are all different in some way or the other. None is the same. Even two identical people, identical twins are not the same. But you know what? There is one thing, there is no difference between all of them, which is, I know. I'm aware. It's an amazing thing. I'm asleep, I'm aware. I'm awake, I'm aware. I'm dreaming, I'm awake. You look at the entire 3 stages that complete. And so I'm aware. The only thing I can postulate, which I don't know, is if I'm dead, I won't be aware. It is not true. So the death is nothing like a deep sleep. In the deep sleep also you are aware of nothing. In the death also you'll be aware. So the awareness is, which is Parameshwara, only one awareness, is there all the time. This being the case, don't you see that just like you can tell that you have eyes because you can see, can't you tell that because of the fact that I am aware of things, awareness never leaves me? Look at this. No matter what the situation is, you are aware. Your nature is awareness. Just like you see through the eyes, but so you don't see the eye. You don't see the awareness, but your awareness. So then the question will come, in the case of the eyes, you can have a reflection. You can have a reflecting surface that will show you exactly what your eyes are. What about in the case of my awareness? What will be the reflecting surface? And before we go to answer that question, I'd like to just make sure that we revise this verse now. For those of you, then I think most of you that attended this class for the Kena Upanishad, which was chapter 2, Khanda 2, 2.2. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mritam. I hope you remember. This is the same verse that is pointing out. All the leading up to it, saying there is no way to look at your awareness but by seeing that you cannot be aware of everything except for the fact that you are the very awareness. This was very revealing and clarifying to me. Once I understood, it took me a while. I may have studied Kena Upanishad many times, but when I saw this, I said, oh my God, how did I miss this? So this is the analogy. So now we can answer this question that in the case of the eyes, I can see a clear mirror. What is the reflecting surface for seeing my awareness? The reflecting surface is Vishuddha Buddhi. Vishuddha Buddhi. Shuddha Buddhi. Shuddha Buddhi means a clear, unobstructed mind is the reflecting surface. And in the case of looking at the mirror, looking at the mirror doesn't take any time, doesn't take any effort. You're standing in front of the mirror and you immediately see your eyes and say, oh, this is what I look like. But the mirror better be clean, unobstructed. If you have a mirror which has been lying outside in the elements for a number of years, and dirt has not only gotten on top of it, it has become caked in. And the only way to remove that is not by scratching, because you will scratch the whole mirror itself. So what they do, people that know, they have some kind of a powder on these kinds of caked dirt, and they wet the powder and they put that on top of the mirror. They actually just spread it nicely, all the areas that needed to be clean, the whole mirror. And they leave it there to dry. When it becomes dry, the powder also comes out, and the dirt, the caked dirt also comes out and becomes very clear. So the upshot of this is that seeing doesn't take any time, but cleaning the mirror takes some effort and time. This is the situation. Seeing that I am the nature of awareness. The nature of awareness is not an ordinary thing. The nature of awareness is like Chidakasha. No limits to it. Is there any limit to your awareness? Please do some study and please come back to me. And he says, no, you know what? I found that my awareness disappeared from 5:30 to 8:30. 3 hours. So, you're wrong. I tell you, this is, I saw my awareness and it disappeared. Can't do that. You are the awareness who is aware of the fact that the awareness disappeared. It cannot go anywhere. It is timeless. It was never born. We should see this very clearly. If you don't see this clearly, then you need to clean up your mind. And so here, Swami Maheshanji had pointed out that even in Bhagavad Gita, this happens all over. But if you look at chapter 18, the last chapter, verse number 51. So Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, Buddhya Vishuddhaya Yuktaha. This is the very first one. He's like a long list of things. Let me finish the whole thing, then I'll come back to it. This is 1851. Now 51 to 53, all three verses together. Buddhya Vishuddhaya. Okay, if I can. Buddhya Vishuddhaya Yuktaha Dhritya Atmanam Niyamya Shabdadin Vishayans Tyaktva Raga Dveshau Vyudasya Cha Vivikta Sevi Labdvashi Yatava Kvayamanasaha Dhyana Yoga Paro Nityam Vairagyam Samuppashritaha Ahankara Balam Darpam Kamam Krodham Parigraham Vimuchya Nirmama Shantaha Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So I just related all three of them, even though the main thing I wanted to point out was the very first advice given by Sri Krishna to Arjuna, Vishuddhya Buddhaya Yuktaha, endowed with a pure mind. Then in the very end, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. You are fit for becoming Brahma Bhuya, as one with Brahma. In other words, Brahma with Brahma eva bhavati. The knower of Brahma becomes Brahma. The knower of the fact that I am the total space becomes the total space. It was already the total space, but it didn't know it. But the first one is Vishuddha Buddhya. So Vishuddha Buddhya here means that it requires some effort. And so like in washing clothes also, supposing you were to wash your clothes, I sometimes, since the car wash has become so expensive, I can try to just wash the windshield myself and just wipe it, save money. And so there are a bunch of rags that I use, and I put some water into it, and then I just wash the windshield. I can't wash the whole car. There I think it'll waste too much water. So I let it be somewhat dirty, but the windshield and the back has to be clean. So I do it with some rags, and the rags become very dirty. So when the rags become very dirty, I can't just wash it in water, because all the black dirt stays with it, more or less. Some of it will go, but most of it will stay. What I need to do is to put some soap on it. When you put soap on it, you actually make the rag even less clean for a while, because you got soap all over it. But that soap is very interesting, because just like in the case of that powder on the mirror, it also goes and it takes the dirt alongside with it also. So there it means what needs to be done is it takes some effort. It takes some effort and it takes dhairyam. This is the last word that I was telling you about. It takes dhairyam. And so sometimes you will say, I've been doing this for a long time, nothing has happened. This is not something that you can just cram. Swami Maheshanji had given this very beautiful example. He said, I find the students in India, and even here people do it, but it's much more in India. In India, what happens is that we have an annual exam. Here, when I came, it was a very beautiful situation that you had midterms that go on several times during the year, so you can't slacken off. But in India, we used to just have fun and do nothing for 10 and a half months, and then cram like mad in the last month and a half. And in cramming, you know what we will do? We would say, what are the most probable questions that have been asked? And then there is an analysis that for the last 10 years, these questions come up most probable. So we say, what are those? So there are cheat sheets available and you just cram it. Swami Maheshananji says, you may actually get first class by doing it, but do you get to know the subject matter by doing this? No. What you need to do is to be steady. At every step of the way, you think about it, absorb it, try to live it, then go forward. Vichara, Visheshena Chara, we saw that. So, you have to do karma, you have to do upasana, you have to do meditation. Slowly, sattvic, sattva food. Give up meat eating right away. And too many chilies also. They are rajasic. So the food has to be sattvic. The mind has to be sattvic. The lifestyle has to be truthful. Then your mind calms down and it becomes very easy to see the truth that was hidden in your own mind for a long time. This is like washing in the mirror so that the reflection becomes clear. And when that happens, your own mind accepts you and it doesn't hanker after small things to do. I must do this, I must do that, I must go there, I must have some friends, let's have dinner, this, that or the other. Where is the chance for you to examine, my God, I'm okay the way I am. And the more you do that, the more your Atma Jnanam, your self-enquiry becomes much more fruitful. You have it. It is just needs to be found. So the Shastra is very clear about this. Very clear about this. And so one other thing which I just didn't get a chance to do this very much. So this is what is called the lifestyle of Shreyas versus Preyas. And you know this very well. So Preyas means the lifestyle of having fun, enjoying. And it's kind of like, when you have some money, supposing you earn some money and it's yours, you now have a chance to decide how to spend the money. Either you can just have fun and just fritter away, same example as the 20-year-old king, or you can invest, called Preyas and Shreyas. Shreyas means what is the long-term goodness. This is where Dhairyam comes in. So as you know, in the Kathopanishad, so Dharmaraja, Yamaraja tells Nachiketas in Adhyaya 1, Valli 2, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyameta Manusham etastau samparitya vivinakti dhiraha. Again the word dhiraha, same dhairyam. Shreyo hi dhira abhipreyaso vrinite. Preyo mando yogakshemat vrinite. Excuse me. He says both Shreyas and Preyas are presented to you as options. And the Dhira chooses Shreyas. And Mandaha, Manda means the dullard, the one not clearly thinking, just enjoying for the moment but not looking at the future. Yogakshemat vrinite. That you just want to get new things and to protect what you have and not really go for the long term. So this Shreyas Preyas also. So with that, our review of the nature of Atma Jnanam, of self-inquiry rather, is now complete. We talked about a number of different topics, and I hope that you have a chance to revisit it and absorb it by thinking more and reabsorbing it in your own mind. So with that, I close the class today. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Mam Vitam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Mando Yogakshemat. So Balamani says, in short, what are the things required to clean the mind? Reduce the raga dvesha as a simple answer. So, we use the word agraha. So the agraha means that you're clinging. You think that this is useful to me, to belong to a party is useful to me, even though you know that the party is not doing the right thing. Like in the case of this examination of this black, Afro-American lady who is being proposed for the Supreme Court. So the Republicans, they might feel that she's actually okay. She's pretty good. She's got a very good record and so on. But why? Because you are a Republican, you have to toe the party line. So, Balamaniji, same thing is true for Raga Dvesha. You know that the Raga, just being clinging to some viewpoint, I don't like that person. And I don't want to really associate with that person. And these are the people that I like. This is the kind of food that I like. And I don't like this, and I like this, and so on. It's like an agraha. You know that, why don't we examine things fresh? And to give people the benefit of the doubt, food the benefit of the doubt. And instead, we are hung up on we said, this is my lifestyle. This is what happens to in the ahamkara. This is me. Don't argue with me. This is what I like and dislike and so on. So it doesn't mean that you should not be careful about danger and go to the right places. That's not what the idea is. But unnecessary clinging to ideas without looking at a neutral way of being, that means you're not independent. You're not independent. You are still being hampered by the sharp things, like you're wearing some clothing and you're going through some bushes that has some sharp things, and they're catching you. You're not able to go through. And so as a result, you need to have some clothing where it doesn't catch you. Some plastic, I don't know, not a good example, but anyway, some kind of a plastic things that you can go through without being caught. So the short answer is that the cleaning of the mind, it's really, I think, a tuning of the mind more than the cleaning. But the tuning of the mind is that you live a life of not being caught by your own peculiar ideas. Let's let it go. It's okay. If somebody says something, it's all right. There's nothing to do with me. They've got their own problems. And so not really react in any way. Just accept it. You can accept it because if you do that, then your internal possibilities become much more prevalent, much more obvious to you. Your internal possibilities, internal means the very nature of the Atma, the Parameshwara that is you, does not rise to bless you because you're so busy in being occupied with likes and dislikes. Something like that. All right. Okay, so not sure what the topic for next week will be. I will try to look for it and either go through a different text or at least a different topic, because now we have completed this. So with that, I take your leave and hopefully we'll see you next